everybody. Welcome to another episode of Famcast. This is episode number 11. Welcome to the Famcast. I'm here with my cousin Primo Chris. What's up, Chris?
What's up? What's up, guys?
Chris, what kind of week has it been for you?
I mean, I think it's been a pretty bizarre week for everyone, no? I mean, just a lot of anxiety built up. Yeah, just a lot of anxiousness. But yeah.
And I want to talk about the reality of why we might be feeling what we're feeling. So, as a lot of us might know, we're in the middle of an election. We have no results yet, and the results that we do have spiral us into an anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
hey, Chris, I have a question. Did you vote?
Yeah, I actually voted. This is the first time I ever voted. So, I mean, what I forgot what episode it was when you guys kept telling me to vote and vote. I wasn't gonna vote. I mean, cause I don't know. I never have. But yeah, you guys inspired me to vote and get my voice out there. So I really appreciate you guys for for telling me and keep embedding that keep voting or go ahead and go and vote in my brain. So heck yeah, man! Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And really, I want to identify the reality of why we might, specifically as Latino males, we don't always feel included in our government. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But really to identify, it's okay because you not voting is still you voting. You choosing not to use your voice is still you using your voice. And I think it's great to recognize that when we use our voice, like the way me and Diego were using our voice, we have influence. Mm-hmm. And not only did we reach out to somebody that had the ability to vote, but I also know we reached out to people who don't have the ability to vote. And I think that's one of the reasons I vote. Mm-hmm. I vote because I know that people don't have the ability to vote. And by me using my vote, I get to cast a ballot for someone else. My ballot now is 2 votes, but because of the reality of the circumstances, the number is 1. Mm-hmm. And actually, even when you look at our electoral college system and in a presidential election, we have to combine all our votes, and that's where all those votes really do count. So I appreciate you for voting. I appreciate you for using your voice. Okay. And I want to create this platform where we can have a conversation about and identifying why some of us might not feel that we can vote. Some of us might want to vote, and some of us might feel very passionate about using our voices and to really validate all of those experiences because they're all valid. Mm-hmm. Some people don't have the privilege to vote in this country, and they should have the privilege to vote in this country. Some people who have the ability to vote for their country, to vote in the United States, choose to not vote, and that's okay as well. I think it's important to recognize some of those reasons. So would you like to open it up, Chris? What are some of the reasons what are some of the reasons and experiences that you may have that made you feel like, I don't want to vote?
So, I mean, politics, voting, everything, to tell you the truth, from freaking freshman year of high school to when I graduated, even some time in college, I always felt my voice didn't really mean anything. I always felt like if they're doing if they process the ballot through electoral college, then why should I vote if I know a lot of people in my community? I know a lot of my friends and family members and cousins, just neighbors and stuff that are gonna vote for a certain person. And if they're all going to vote for that certain person, then basically I always ask myself then, why should I vote? If I know majority of the time we're going to win, or that person's going to win because all the majority of people that voted for that person. But then started getting into a little bit more into politics here and there, and I started to realize that like how you were saying, it's not only about my voice, it's about the voices of the people that don't have a voice, like how you were saying. I know a lot of people that um, that don't have the right to vote, and I see that a lot of certain a certain person who's running for president, um, a certain person who's running for president basically is going against this person's rights and trying to take what their rights are in this country. And so then that's what changed my mind as well. Is, well, like how you were saying earlier, is if my vote counts for me, and for the states counts as one vote, I'm sure the person that can't vote appreciates me for voting and voicing out their voice through my ballot. And so yeah, from experiences, the experiences, I didn't get to vote. I did get to vote, but I chose not to. Like you said, it's a decision I made as well. So you cleared that up for me, and you're like, how you said, just because I didn't vote doesn't mean uh, I didn't get to vote, or I messed up because I didn't vote. No, it's like how you said, it was my decision. I actually did vote, and I voted not to vote. So um, yeah, so yeah, you cleared that up for me.
It's I'm glad that we have a platform where we can have a conversation simply about identifying your values,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not about, what we should and shouldn't do, because that's super shameful. It's about what we have the ability to do.
Yeah.
What do we have? What can we control? What can we focus on? I know I casted my vote 2 weeks early, and it was the first time for a presidential election that I casted a mail-in ballot, and I was driven with anxiety for 2 weeks. I was driven with anxiety because I was with constant and present fear about what is the future going to look like. Am I going to be fired from my job next year? And is that going to be okay when that happens? And I recognize that that's a privileged kind of fear. It's not a fear that I love to have, no. But the fact that I get to use my voice, the fact that I get to defend and use my voice and say I cast this vote and this is what I'm gonna, and that helped me understand and validate my anxiety and helped me understand my fear, because my fear had so much more greater to do than with me. It wasn't about me losing my job in a year from now. It's about the thousands and thousands of us that are not only going to lose our jobs or not have health care coverage or not be able to make ends meet. It's about folks who are here and belong here and don't have the right to vote. It's not within the realm of their privilege to vote. And I think that's where we can, when we start looking at it from that perspective, I really want to open it up to, why is that? Why is it that in the United States of America, we have people who are not able to vote, to not able to practice, to preach, to say, this is what I say. I say, let's vote here and let's go with this. We don't have that, which means that there's so much misrepresentation in our politics. And I really want to open up the platform from that, because that opens up an opportunity to validate opportunities and experiences for so many more people that are not just you and I, engaging in a political process, but engaging in a political process that was not made for us.
Yeah, so another thing too, how you're asking me about voting and all that stuff, and how you were saying how I felt before, saying like I felt like my voice didn't matter and stuff like that. I did always believe in like majority votes rather than electoral college, because I felt if they counted every single ballot ballot one by one, then they start seeing everybody who voted, everybody's name comes down the line. I mean, it does now, but rather it goes by like counties, from counties to states, and and that's when it just bunches and bunches. and that's why I always had a question: is why don't they do that? Is because then to me then that's when I would say like my voice actually matters when if they did count it one by one. I know why they don't do it like that. It's because it may take longer. It's a longer process. Um, uh, but I mean, look how we're going now. It's been what they've been. It's been since the 31st of October that we were able to vote at polls. It's as November 5th now, and we still don't have any. We still don't have an answer. We don't have a uh, we don't have a winner yet of this presidential race. So it's like my question is, do you think that can be a possible way of an election for next 4 years in 2024? I mean, who knows? I feel a lot of people would appreciate it more and feel like their voice actually mattered more. But that's just my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, Nano. And like I said, I know it's a long process. I mean, I don't know. It's taking forever right now, but I don't know. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, because I will say, just because you threw out a date, shout out to my brother. Happy birthday!
Oh, yeah.
16 years old today. And my brother now in 2 years will be able to vote because of a proposition that passed here in California as a result of this election. So, brother, you're gonna get to vote a year earlier. Congratulations, that's your birthday present. And so the reason, just really quickly, when something doesn't spark joy, you let it go. The Electoral College doesn't spark joy for the United States of America anymore. At one point in our society, we needed to have equal representation, and really to recognize that equal representation was not fully equal. That was representation where one man was a white male, I should say. A white male was a property owner, and part of that property was owning another human. We don't do that. We don't practice slavery anymore. So our electoral college, is bunk because it's not justifiable to the society that we live in today. That society where it was also created, it had to compromise for women not seen as women, let me rephrase that, for people being dehumanized. Mm-hmm. For people being dehumanized, that's the Constitution. That's what the Electoral College was helping represent, because otherwise, like you said, it was going to probably take too long. Yeah. And there was certain population, there was bigger populations in different states to really get an accurate representation of our government, right? So we're not looking at the presidency anymore. Mm-hmm. We're looking at our Senate and our House of Representatives. We get our numbers by those. Those are the votes. And so when you have, a state of California that is very, very large as comparison to a state, can't even think of a small state, unfortunately. But it's okay to move on with it. The numbers were not going to equivalate. But the way I see it, they still don't equivalate.
Yeah.
In 2016, Hillary Clinton took the popular vote. But because of the Electoral College, didn't become the president of the United States.
Yeah, see.
And in 2021, Al Gore took the state of Florida. And then after conceding the state of Florida, after counting all of their ballots, realized, actually, no. Those mail-in ballots that kept coming in changed those numbers. Mm-hmm. And so it's validating it's a long process. This is too much of a long process. You mentioned how the ballot, the polls open on 31st or the 1st, and like I said, I voted 2 weeks ago. So it creates this level of anxiety and really wanting to know how to move forward. Yeah. But I agree with you. It doesn't work. Yeah. And when something doesn't work, we're ready to outgrow it. We've outgrown it now, and we have to reevaluate, relook at it. I'm not saying throw it out or throw our government out, but to reevaluate it, mm-hmm. to relook at it and say, let's create something that's going to work now for us. I think that we can open up that opportunity, because when we open up that opportunity, there's so much more we can change about our government. Mm-hmm. Proposition 17, I believe, was the proposition to restore voter rights for incarcerated individuals. And we talked, and one of the things I want to clarify with that proposition specifically is that the language used isn't always layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
When these propositions are used language that are so intrinsic that it confuses the common individual, you and I,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it to where you might vote one way, believing that you're voting in the way you believe, and you and I believe the same thing, and we might have casted different votes because of our understanding of what we read.
Yeah.
And a similar example of that is Proposition 8 in 2008, when California made it legal and then made it illegal and then made it illegal again for individuals to engage in a same-sex marital relationship. And that's, again, folks who were in favor of human rights didn't know that they were casting a ballot for the alternative simply because of the language.
Yeah.
The language didn't resonate, or the language was too difficult to understand, and that's the responsibility not necessarily on the individual. But now we can dive into that broken system that we talk about.
Yeah.
Chris, when was the first time that you learned that you had the opportunity to vote?
The first time? It was sometime out of high school. What year is it? No, it was actually the last election. What is it? 2016. I was able to vote, and I mean, I think I was going to college at the time, and I don't know. I felt like I said before, I felt like my voice didn't matter, and I was like, you know what I always said is, screw it, I'm going with the flow, just go with the flow. But now that like I said, I'm getting into a little more into politics. Not too deep into it, but I mean, just things that stand out to me and stuff. Then that's when I started realizing, like, okay, it's time for me to vote. But yeah, I believe it was 2016, the last election. I mean, it was Trump and Clinton. And was it? Yeah, right. 2016.
Trump and Clinton. And there was other.
Yeah. And there was other, but those were the main. The more popular.
And our bipartisan.
Yeah.
In our bipartisan government, it's the popularist party gets the likely to win the candidacy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's why oftentimes folks do fall. We can talk about that too. So, deciding a political party is I never felt visible in any political party. I didn't fall in line with Democratic values, and it never fell in line with Republican values.
Mm-hmm.
And so been very personal, but when I first registered to vote, I registered as an independent,
Mm-hmm.
and that it allowed for me to create space for, like you said, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Go with the flow. I'm not going to vote for this person because of the R or the D.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to vote for this individual because of the name and what their values, what they believe in.
Yeah.
And do they uphold the values that I believe in?
Exactly.
Do they see me as a human, or do they see me as a commodity?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a commodity. I'm a human.
Yeah.
And I believe that in order to be human, you have to be humanized, and we have to humanize ourselves. And I think that when we can start understanding why we do feel invisible in the representation of our government, we can actually start understanding why that is. One of the things I like to talk about is how we have not seen the representation and why that is. Why don't we see Latinx individuals in our government? Why don't we see our governor of or our governor in the state be female? Why isn't that our in our classrooms when we were taught that we had the right to vote? Why was it that it was passed over us? Well, it's because it wasn't aimed at us.
Yeah.
It wasn't aimed to target us or to represent us. And I think that that's where we have the ability to recognize that if you are somebody out there that has that you're over in California over 17, if you're over the age of 18, you have the ability, the privilege to be able to vote in this state. It's not that you have to. No, it's that there's an importance in making the decision and validate your decision. I validate you for not voting.
Yeah.
How could you? I wouldn't vote in an area where I'm not representative, and that's where we have to be able to have these conversations where, okay, why is it this way?
Yeah.
Well, it's because I have not been in front of a political person que me va a hablar en español y que me va a hablar de las cosas importantes de que a mí me afectan y a mi comunidad. Es esto de que mis familiares no están aquí, están en otros países porque no pueden estar aquí. O sea, yo no entiendo eso. Pero lo que yo sí entiendo es que yo tengo voz y ese voz va a cambiar. Y el tipo de cambio simplemente es el entender. I want to understand why this individual can't speak to me.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're speaking English and I understand English. It's because the language that they're using is not validating to my experience. It's simply Proposition 8 wasn't identifying with my experience. And the vote itself, I remember reading that and knowing I know what I value. I just don't know which one to flip, yes or no.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's still the case today. A lot of the bills that we've seen in our ballots, I had to rethink a lot of them. What did you think of them, Primo?
I mean, like I said, it's just the wording on them. Sometimes they leave a lot of things that are questioned and can't be questioned because they're already printed out and put into a proposition. And like for example, proposition, was it 17? Oh no, yeah, proposition 17, where it's talking about inmates who are prisoners who have finished doing their term and finish their sentencing and come out. Do they have the right to vote, and or should they get all their rights to vote back? And the thing is I mean, the question I would ask is, what depends on their crime. What did they commit? Or like you guys, whoever's creating these propositions, they have to be very thorough with their wording, because like how you said before, me and you have same opinions on this certain proposition, but you vote yes and I vote no because the wording is totally off and it's not thorough, and like how we it's not as thorough to us than it is to another person. So yeah, like I was saying, just the wording and stuff, man, is it's a big thing, and I feel like that's something they should really they should really pay attention to, because like I said, a lot of people who are voting for certain things, but in reality they're voting for something they actually didn't believe in or didn't think should be passed, and it's not their fault. It's because the way it was worded. But I don't know. What do you think about it?
And you're so right. I think like we have to redo it, like the way we do our bills. I have the privilege of understanding words that it took me having to read and reread and relearn and mix up those words again to understand what it meant. Or in like a court hearing or in meetings, for example, you follow this thing called Robert's Rules of Order, where everyone who is speaking has a turn to speak, and it's kind of this way to lay out formality in any kind of formal meeting in our government specifically. And I'm not saying it's wrong but it pulls an individual who doesn't have the experience of studying political science or engaging in programs like We the People. If you weren't exposed to that, how can you understand the language, even understanding proposition? I remember when I didn't know what a proposition meant. And I remember when I thought a bill was a dollar bill. When I learned that a bill is actually what becomes a law, I was like, what? How does that even, what? Laws aren't just a thing on a paper that we follow.
Yeah.
There's like policies and procedures, checks and balances that have to happen. And I genuinely believe that that information is not accessible to everyone. It's genuinely blocked by certain school districts even to teach specific curriculum. And depending on the funding of that school, are they going to have the teachers to provide the resources to these students to engage in those questions?
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to have a high school teacher, a civics teacher, who was very non-political. They didn't tell us what side of the parties they standed on. And so it really flourished this ability to be independent for me, because I was taught by somebody who didn't say you have to be Democrat or you have to be Republican. But that's because I have that experience. You might not have that experience. And I can even say we went to the same high school.
Yeah.
So it has so much more to do with the high school, the system.
Yeah.
Delano High School did not dedicate itself to empowering all of their students to make sure they go vote. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
They selected few individuals and called them leaders and put them in these classrooms and specific programs. They isolated us.
Yeah.
They told us, you belong here, you belong there, and you're going to flourish in these areas. And I'll tell you now, my freshman year of college, I dropped out of political science and I switched over to social and behavioral science. Political science I have the understanding that it doesn't represent us, because it doesn't embody the behaviors of humans. It doesn't acknowledge humans even. And like at the Electoral College, you group a state with 4 votes that represents a group of more than 4,000 votes. That's very difficult to navigate what the state is looking at. So, and I think to try to simplify that can be done more authentically. So simplify it to say a yes vote here means this and a no vote here means this.
Yeah, exactly.
We can do that.
Yeah.
But why don't they do it? I really wish they would.
I feel it's a way to find a loophole to what they really want to get past, and that's why they throw so many weird words in there. And a lot of people, I mean, sometimes I remember back in high school when I didn't get anything. Like say I was taking a quiz and I didn't get the question. C. So I mean, a lot of times people are gonna do that. They just see who are the main nominees for this presidential race, and that's what they focus on. That's the only thing. But then when it comes down to their ballot measures and stuff like that, their propositions and stuff, that's when they start like whatever. But in reality, that's one of the main things, because you're living in that state and it's something that's going to be passed in that state. But yeah, I was going to ask you something. You were saying something about how you were taking political science in your freshman year of college. You dropped out, right? And then you're saying that because it didn't represent us, it represented you were saying it was representing something. Could you elaborate more on that? Like, what was it that you found out that it was representing or lacking on? What
it was lacking. It focused so much on tradition, a tradition that established America, and it didn't identify what America was founded on.
Mm.
I believe even in our Constitution alone, we have a great Constitution, but it doesn't. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote for the general welfare, and secure the blessings of our liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We don't do that. We don't value we don't ordain justice. Going back to the should people get a right to vote, one of the questions I would like to ask is, did rehabilitation work? Did the rehabilitation work? Did your idea of justice, of putting this individual on a stand and claiming them for their finding them guilty for their crimes and then sending them into solitary confinement, and in a program that we've learned time after time after time after time, not only was it built on racist ideology, but it also it's embedded in white supremacy, in the sense of not the what we traditionally knew and saw, a new form, an evolved form. And that's where we can, when I was in political science, I didn't see myself as learning. I felt myself being more brainwashed than learning about how I can make a difference. I found myself being more, for lack of another better way of saying it, coerced to believe that because I'm not being represented there, I don't count. But I have to count either way. I still have to put in the work. I found myself learning laws that were created based on things that I knew I didn't value. When we segregated schools, I didn't believe that we should have segregated schools. Brown v. Board of Education helped alleviate that, and I think to establish how historically we've gotten to these issues. Real things happened. Someone committed a crime. Someone hurt someone else. So I believe in hurt people, and that's why I believe in rehabilitation. I don't believe in our justice system. I think we have a broken justice system, and that again targets individuals and proclaims them as prisoners when this individual actually might be falsely reported, falsely accused. And we've seen that happen. We've seen black people get accused of being rapists over and time again when that is not the reality of the circumstance. And in fact, cases that go unreported are oftentimes and majority done by white men in power. And these are the men that are our leaders. These are the men that are not being incarcerated. These are men getting away with these laws. And so that's when I was in political science. I remember finding myself, I want to do a different kind of work. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to help folks who are struggling to find a voice, to recognize that they have a voice. Hey, you can vote. You know that if you engage in this behavior, you might lose your ability to vote. It's the same way you lose your ability to get a license. And that helped me understand more why we need to have platforms like Let's Talk. I know people don't like to talk about politics, and that's because it's an uncomfortable topic. If you are talking about something you don't feel represented in, it doesn't always make for the easiest conversation. And that's where I use my male privilege to create a conversation. To create a conversation about how, hey, I see that we're not being represented here. I'm going to make sure that we're represented here. And even if I'm the only one voting, that's never the case. Yeah. It's never just one vote. There's multiple votes, and that's why I believe in community. And when I started valuing community over politics, I started really even shifting my course of education. And more things that I've learned is that our laws are misogynistic. They don't value. They don't uphold the value of what it is to value humans. And when they don't do that, when you use misogyny, you don't value women. Roe v. Wade is a discussion. That court case is a discussion about the body of what another person gets to do with their body. Mm-hmm. Why do men feel entitled to tell women what to do with their body? Why? Not, let me rephrase that. Why did anybody feel entitled to create a bill, to create a law that said, hey, you're not supposed to do that because I say so or because I believe it's wrong? I also, the idea of separating church and state. I know that our founding fathers probably meant what they said in separation of church and state, but it's not the values that we uphold today.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we uphold values because of our religious belief, we're losing sight of other people's religious beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
other people's ideology, other people's lifestyles, and more importantly, their right to that, because that's their right to practice.
Yeah.
And I think, lastly, what I'll say, one thing that I learned is that I was gonna do so much more better and be more of an authentic human when I chose to change my major, because social and behavioral science is gonna help me change the future. Being a politician today is gonna, like I felt in that moment, stuck in a system that's not working. It's not moving forward. And if you know me, I'm very impatient, so I like to like get things going and figure things out. And I love learning things because I like wisdom. But I understand too that it not everyone has that experience.
Yeah.
Not everyone has what I've went through to say, I have to cast my vote. It's today. I have to do it. Not everyone has that, and I want to also respect that, because that's valid. When we have a society that, like, for example, to register to vote, you have to have an address. You have to have some type of physical address, whether it's a P.O. box or address. If you don't have an address, or if you don't have the resources to have an address, or support to have an address, or even the ability to read, if you don't have that, that's already someone that the law doesn't represent. Our government doesn't represent that, and I wanna see a government that does represent that. And I think that's why I say only my vote's gonna do that.
Yeah.
Only my vote's gonna create a society that I want to see, and it's because me choosing to vote for this individual versus this individual, I've used my vote, regardless of whether this individual takes the candidacy or not. It's the fact that I know that I used my voice. I did that thing that I wanted to do to satisfy my disbelief for this other individual. When I vote for this individual, it's not that I'm voting for their values. I know this year specifically, I voted for who I didn't want to vote for. And that is important to me because it helped me recognize that it's okay to use your vote to not vote.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we were able to touch upon how it's not just about the presidency or about our politicians in our government. It's about the very laws, these propositions that affect our everyday life.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I couldn't vote when I was 17 and I wanted to vote when I was 17. It's the reason why, and it changes. It has an ability to change. We can see how these laws can change, and we have the ability to change them.
Yeah.
It takes numbers. It takes collectiveness, and it takes connecting with each other. Connecting with each other, I think, is the most important. When we connect with each other, you can say, hey, you voted yes here, and I voted no here, but we both know we had the same belief, and now we can actually gain a better perspective of ourselves, and I think validate the reality of what we see in the world, like laws that don't represent us or mislead us to believe in other ideologies that we might feel entitled over individuals. I think I said this in our last podcast. No one should feel entitled over another individual. It's a lack of boundary, and it's a lack of boundary for yourself.
Yeah.
Boundaries doesn't have to be bodily either. I think one of the things with boundaries is your laws are your boundaries. The laws that we have in the United States are our boundaries, and we choose to believe in those laws, to uphold our values to those laws, or we wish to, like, I can't remember her name, but in one of the memes that I saw that about this political climate, kind of what inspired me to want to create a platform, a healthy, positive platform for this. Is the spark of joy. It was a meme about sparking joy and what doesn't spark your joy anymore, and it was somebody throwing out the electoral college out a window, saying it doesn't spark my joy no more. And I thought it was that's how we can approach this, through conversation.
Yeah.
Through understanding and asking each other questions on, like, you have a view of this, you have a view of seeing individuals who might have been pedophiles, who may have been charged for pedophilia, now leaving the prison system, and I believe you, I'm scared with you. I'm scared with you, and it's that, having that conversation is going to allow us for a conversation to understand that, hey, rehabilitation is not working.
Yeah.
We have to reframe that too. We'll work on, and now we have an ability to work on our government, to work on our institutions built within our government, and to create change within them. Mm-hmm. To say, hey, maybe an individual who is on parole for a life sentence, maybe we're gonna examine and reevaluate. We're not gonna say that every single individual that committed a crime, has been accused, and now served their sentence is gonna get a right to vote.
Yeah.
If the law worked that way, that'd be great. It's a lot more difficult than that.
Yeah.
But I think that the more we have those conversations, the more we'll be able to recognize that we can build change within our system, and that folks who don't have an ability to vote today, next year might have an ability to. And it's not because they're either offenders or they don't have documentation to be within our society. Nah, it's because we're changing. Our society has to change. And the way we evolved that, the way we continue to evolve that, is going to be able to restore an individual who hurt somebody because they were hurt themselves, or because they stole something because they had no other way to make means ends, or to sell something because they had no other way of making money. We can reframe the way we look at these individuals by the way we look at our laws. And the way we look at our laws is going to be changed by the way, if we are able to vote for them. Yeah. And what I've learned is that even though I was 17 and ready to vote, there was so many 27-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds that didn't even know they can.
Yeah.
Or they can't. It's not a right. It's not a privilege that they have. And because I recognize that I have that privilege, I want to be able to validate folks who don't have that, and who really stand in their let me rephrase that. Create a platform where people can understand that they can change. Yeah. That if you're not happy with what you see, you can say something. If you find yourself in moments where you're around people that you all hold the same values, and you know that this person voted for this person and this person voted for this other person, you're not gonna shame anyone for that. You're gonna I want to ask questions. Yeah. I'm gonna want to ask, why do you feel that way? And then I'm gonna learn more, and maybe I might change my thought on voting.
Yeah, I mean, I seen a meme where there's these two guys. They're like shaking hands, and one's holding one flag up, and one's holding the opposite, the opposing. So, I think one's holding Biden, one's holding Trump flags up, and they're shaking hands, and it's like, yeah, man, like, I mean, it says something about, yeah, spread your word, but don't spread hatred or something like that. Something along those lines. And it's true. It's like, I mean, we're all neighbors. We're all family. We're all, we're all the human race. And in this state, and in these states, we all have to have that bond together, because we are all part of that same. We're all part of the same states, or the United States. And yeah, when I seen that, I was like, see, like it can be. It doesn't have to be so harsh all the time, and saying like you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, it's like how you said. How about speak to me? Why do you feel like that? Like exactly how you said just a couple minutes ago. Why do you feel like that? And like you said, it might change my perspective on it, or might make me feel like, you know what? Okay, you know what? Like that's true. It sounds true. And I mean, it's your belief at the end, your opinion, and if it's what you feel that's gonna value you more, then go for it. You know, be all for it. But another thing too, you gotta be 100% on what you're voting for. Like if you're questioning yourself and you don't know if you're gonna vote or if you're gonna say, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna vote this because I mean, I feel like it's gonna help me out, or it's gonna help my family out, or society out. I feel like people should feel 100% before they actually take action and vote for a certain thing. But yeah, be 100%. Don't if you're questioning yourself, keep questioning until you hit that 100% for sureness. So, but yeah,
No, I like that. Keep questioning.
yeah,
And if there's anything I learned about understanding emotions and specifically anxiety, anxiety wants you to gather more information. That's why you're feeling anxious.
yeah,
You want to gather more information because there's a future 911 call that your body's trying to avoid. And gathering more information by asking questions, it leads to more conversation and to truly be open to
yeah,
what the other person has to say, because that is their truth, that is their lived experience. When you teach a child to hate, the child is only going to know to hate. And when you teach a child that hate is love, that child thinks that they're loving you when they hate you. And that's not. I've learned that through child development that adults are the biggest children. And we, as adults, we can project that hate onto people, but we can also choose to spread love, spread understanding, and be nice to people, especially during political seasons, because we know that we don't all hold the same values. So all the more reason to hear people out, understand their specific lived experiences, things that change their course in their life to do things in their lives that they don't have the circumstances. Again, when you don't see yourself represented in your society, you're invisible. You feel invisible.
yeah,
And that can foster a lot of that's room for a lot of different type of emotion and a lot of different behavior. And when we use our emotion and our behavior, like you said, be sure, be 100%.
Yeah.
Know that you are doing what you want to do because it's your autonomy.
Yep.
Your autonomy.
That's
no
for
sure.
sure.
So with that, I want to be mindful about our time and really to close it on like a really good and healthy, positive note. Chris, how do you feel? It was your first year voting. Tell me about that.
It was awesome. I mean, it was something I'm looking forward to. See what's getting passed, what's actually gonna how things are gonna change and stuff like that. So it's actually something that I'm looking forward to, rather than before. I was, like I said before, just go with the flow. Just now it's actually I see things differently. I feel like there's some changes that need to be changed, and but yeah, I mean, I don't know, like it just like I feel like I actually have a voice now, like even though it's still the electoral college rather than popular, and but yeah, um, now that I finally voted, I'm trying to encourage people to vote. I didn't see it how you said it in the beginning, how my vote may count as two for me because I'm speaking for those who don't have the right to vote, and now that makes me want to vote already for 2024. So, nah, but I'm waiting for next 4 years. Nah, but
Wake me up in 2024.
Yeah. I got my pin ready. I'm gonna have my pin ready.
For real.
No, but
and you know what? One last thing I'll touch upon is like we're human. We're not being human means that we can be prosperous.
Yeah.
We can actually relook at our constitution, our preamble. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, and to provide for the common defense. Or, sorry, I messed that up. Promote the general welfare, provide for the common defense, secure the blessings of our liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. We, each other, all of that. We're all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We already value those things. It's not that we see it, but we do. We have it, especially here. And I think that the more we embody that, the more we not go back to basics, but bring it down to basics, if that makes sense, to really understand, like, what is it that we're trying to do with our government? Well, let's look at our constitution. Are we doing that? I don't think we're doing that. Not with our population. Yeah. And so how can we do that? And I think now we're asking questions. Now we might get some answers. And I really, really want to hear from the rest of you, Famcast. So if anybody's out there hearing this, please let's hear some of those comments, because it's going to provide more of a narrative. Your narrative, our narrative, to really create the change that we're looking for, to create platforms for individuals, like we mentioned, might not know that they have a voice or are using their voice. By not casting that ballot, I'm using my voice and choosing not to. And that speaks volumes, because we have the ability to learn from our history. And our history, if our history has taught us anything, never look at one person for our prejudgment of them. Look at them as a human.
Yeah.
A human's a human. A vote is a vote. And that's the importance of that, is the collectiveness of it, the valueness of it. Because I know that people here belong here and are not allowed to vote, I'm going to cast that vote. Because I'm not only am I casting a vote that's going to affect me, I'm actually going to casting a vote that's going to directly affect them too.
Yeah. And
that's what it's about. It's about when we cast a vote, it's going to not just affect you anymore. It's going to affect everyone around us.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of this. It's taking accountability for it, but providing a due diligence to this. It's our due diligence to use our voice. And that's because we have the privilege to have a voice. Because not everyone has that. Yeah. And to end it on that is to open up a conversation for those who are learning to use that voice. I welcome that.
Heck yeah.
Oh. All right, Famcast. So with that, we're going to be casting our voices. Yeah. We're going to be looking at the rest of the results for this election. And really, we're going to continue to support each other, stand in each other's truth, and continue to work with each other as we connect with each other to understand each other, to say, hey, you voted this way, I voted this way, and let's go talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Famcast. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we out.
All right. See you guys.